What I'm about to tell you happened to me in 2015. Even today, when I think back to those days, it feels like it was only yesterday. Like that house, those rooms, those silences, they are still alive somewhere inside me. I was my parents' only child. My father worked a government job. My mother was a simple homemaker, her days filled with household chores, neighborhood conversations, and keeping up with relatives. I had studied until grade 12, and after that, I stayed home. Mornings with my mother over breakfast. Afternoons with laundry, dishes, or watering the plants on the rooftop. Life was simple, limited, but safe. When I turned 20, talk of marriage began at home. At first, my heart would flutter with nervousness. But my mother always said, this is just part of a girl's life. A few months later, my engagement was arranged within our distant relatives. His name was Cameron. Average height. Quiet. With a strange seriousness in his eyes. He worked at a private company. Cameron's household was large. 2 or 3 brothers, 2 sisters. One sister was already married. The other still lived at home. In the beginning, everything seemed fine. The wedding was simple. I stepped into a new home, new rooms, new faces. Music fades slightly. The first few months of marriage passed well enough. I tried hard to keep everyone happy. Speak less with my mother-in-law. Show respect to my father-in-law. Stay quiet in front of the sisters-in-law and sister. But slowly, the atmosphere began to shift. Cameron's sister and one of his sisters-in-law started treating me differently. They would correct me constantly, turning small things into something larger. You put less salt in the curry. Is that what they teach you at your parents' house? Or laughing in front of Cameron, brother, your wife is so simple. She doesn't seem to understand anything. I stayed silent. My heart hurt. My eyes filled with tears. But I kept my mouth shut. Once, gathering my courage, I told Cameron. He would listen. He would nod. But he never gave any real response. Finally, one day when I brought it up again, he said only this. Bear with it. I'm looking for a cheaper place to rent. Once I find it, we'll move out on our own. That day, I felt ashamed of myself. It seemed as if I was the reason he wanted to leave his own family. But now everyone knew. And after that, it was as though I had been given an open license for blame. She's the one driving our brother away. Cameron would never have thought of leaving otherwise. Nearly a year passed. I endured everything. I crumbled quietly on the inside. But I said nothing to anyone. Then one day, Cameron came home and told me he had found a place. A newly built house. Half the payment up front, the rest in installments. His family didn't like it, except for his father. That man was a genuinely good soul. He treated me like a daughter. Perhaps because he and my father had been old friends. The deal was done the very next day. We moved within a few days. That was the first day I truly felt free. Music softens, a moment of calm. The house wasn't large. 2 rooms, a kitchen, a small courtyard at the front. But it was clean, new, bright. In the evenings, sunlight fell into the courtyard. The neighborhood was quiet. The lane was narrow, lined on both sides with single-story houses. At Maghrib time, the call to prayer would drift from a distant mosque, faint, as though carried on the wind. Life changed in that new house. We would wake early. I would make breakfast for Cameron. He would leave for the office. I would sweep, clean, cook. In the afternoons, I would sometimes lay a cot in the courtyard and sit in the sun. Sometimes I'd lie under the fan in the room. For a few months, things were genuinely good. I had begun to smile again. My heart felt light. The music shifts, a subtle, unsettling undertone begins. And then, slowly, something began to change. At first I couldn't name it. Just a strange unease that stayed with me, especially during the day, when I was alone in the house. A feeling like I was not alone. I told myself, Nadia, this is a new house. A new place. You'll get used to it. When I mentioned it to Cameron, he laughed. You're getting bored being alone. It's just your imagination. Then things started disappearing. I would put salt, tea, spoons, everything in their place. Then they would either vanish or turn up somewhere else. One day I opened the salt container and it was completely empty. I clearly remembered filling it. One afternoon, around noon, I was sitting in the room when I heard the sound of the second room's door slamming shut. That very same sound we hear every day when we close it ourselves. My heart dropped. I got up immediately and went to look. The door was closed. But it had been closed before too. I stood there. My breathing quickened. A faint trembling came into my hands. I gathered my courage. Slowly, I opened the door. There was no one inside. That night I told Cameron everything. He said it must have been a sound from the neighboring house. You frighten yourself for no reason. I went quiet. But my heart wouldn't accept it. These things only ever happened when I was alone. One day, while cooking in the kitchen, I felt someone enter the bedroom. I stopped moving. My heart pounded. Slowly, I walked toward the room. There was nothing there. I didn't tell Cameron this time. He wouldn't have believed me anyway. The ambient music grows heavier, darker. Then came the day everything changed. I was walking from the kitchen toward the bedroom. The door was open. The light was on. As I drew closer, I saw it in the corner. A shadow. The silhouette of a person. My heart froze. I stepped inside slowly. I looked at the wall ahead. Nothing. I turned toward the corner. The shadow was gone. That night I told Cameron, I won't stay alone in this house. I'm frightened. I've seen a shadow. He replied, in a tired voice. Have you gone mad? Spirits don't come during the day. It's all in your head. His words confused even me. Maybe I really was imagining things. But then came the day that changed everything. A day that looked like any other day. And it was on that very day, after the sun went down, that this house showed me its true face for the first time. Deep silence. Then the music returns, slow and heavy. I had woken up a little before Fajr. Outside in the lane, there was absolute silence. Only the occasional bark of a distant dog. I did my ablution. Spread my prayer mat. During the prayer, my heart felt strangely heavy, as though something was pressing down on my chest. After salam, I sat there for a long time. Then I went to the kitchen, lit the stove, and put the kettle on. Cameron had to leave for work. As the sun rose, the neighborhood stirred. Doors opening somewhere. The clatter of dishes. Children getting ready for school. Cameron got ready. I set out breakfast. He ate while scrolling through his phone. On his way out, he said only, I might be late today. I nodded. The door closed. And the house fell completely silent. That silence, the kind that belongs to this house alone. I swept the floors. Washed the courtyard. By noon, the chores were done. The heat was suffocating. The fan was going at full speed. But still, I was sweating. I lay down in the room. But sleep wouldn't come. My eyes kept opening, as though someone was watching me. At ask time, I made tea. The call to prayer floated in from outside. That day, the sound felt strangely sorrowful. I picked up my cup and stood in the courtyard. The lane was deserted. The neighbor's door was shut. And then, I felt it again. Someone standing directly behind me. I spun around immediately. Nothing. My heart lurched. I scolded myself and went back inside. The music dropped to near silence. As Maghrib approached, the sun began to set. A faint orange spread across the sky. I turned on the lights. A pale yellow glow filled the house. But darkness still hid in the corners of the walls. I was preparing dinner. I stepped out of the kitchen for a moment, and my eyes went automatically to the bedroom. The same room. The same wall. And on that wall, the same shadow. The spoon fell from my hand. My heart hammered so loudly I thought the sound might travel outside. I stood frozen, breathing fast, feet rooted to the ground as though buried there. Slowly, I moved toward the room. Every step felt heavy, like walking through mud. Every part of me wanted to run, but my eyes were fixed on that doorway. The moment I entered the room, the shadow vanished. I searched every corner. The bed, the wardrobe, the walls. Nothing. I took a long breath and turned around. And there she was. Total silence. Then, a single low musical note. Standing right in front of me. A woman. My scream died in my throat. My breath stopped completely. Her face. I cannot describe it in words. Eyes. Deep. Black. As though there was no light in them at all. No reflection. No life. Her face was so disfigured it was almost unbearable to look at. And yet, I could not look away. It felt as though something was holding me, forcing me to keep watching. My body went numb. Arms, legs, utterly lifeless. She stood perfectly still. Did not step forward. Did not step back. The room filled with a strange, bone-deep cold. The fan was running. But this chill was different. It was cutting through to my bones. With every ounce of strength I had, I shut my eyes and began reciting every verse of the Quran I could remember. My voice was shaking. My tongue was stumbling. But I did not stop. Time ceased to exist. Half an hour, maybe more, I just kept reciting. Eyes closed. Body trembling. Drenched in sweat. Then, the sound of a door. A key turning. Cameron was home. Nadia. I could not answer. I had no voice left. He came into the room. What happened? Why are you standing like that? I opened my eyes. The room was empty. She was gone. Broken words fell from my mouth. I told him everything. Soft, mournful music. As I spoke, my body gave out. A fierce fever took hold of me. The room began to spin. Cameron was frightened. He sat me on the bed and gave me medicine for the fever. He himself had gone pale. He immediately called my parents. They arrived within the hour. My mother placed my head in her lap. Her hand was on my forehead. But even with her there, I couldn't speak. Every time I closed my eyes, that face came back. I didn't sleep at all that night. In the morning, my father took a slow, deep breath and said, "This doesn't seem like an ordinary matter. We need to bring a Maulana." That same evening, Cameron and my father brought one. And the moment he stepped into this house, the entire atmosphere shifted. Music returns, weighted, ceremonial. The Maulana arrived after Maghrib. The call to prayer had just ended. A faint red still lingered in the sky, but darkness had already settled in the lane. He was around 55 years old. White beard. Simple clothing. A small bag in his hand. The moment he entered the courtyard, I felt the air change direction. No sound. No movement. Just a heavy, pressing stillness. He gave salam. His voice was deep, but calm. I was sitting near the bedroom door. My heart was pounding fiercely. My hands were cold. My mother pressed my shoulder, as if to say, "Be strong." He looked at me gently and asked, "Tell me, child, what has happened to you?" I began speaking. My voice trembled throughout. The shadow. The woman. The paralysis. Everything. Every time I tried to continue, something caught in my throat. The Maulana listened without interrupting. He asked no questions, showed no reaction. Then he asked about the house. "Is this house newly built?" "Yes." "Who lived here before you?" "We don't know." He nodded slowly. "Very well. We'll begin the recitation." He had me sit in the center of the room. My mother sat behind me. Cameron stood near the door. The light was on, but the room felt dim, as though the light itself had grown tired. The Maulana opened the Quran and began to recite. With the very first verse, a strange tension moved through my body. My heart rate spiked. Sweat broke out on my palms. As he continued, a buzzing began in my ears. The sounds weren't clear, as though they were coming from inside the walls. My mother gripped my hand. Her fingers were trembling too. Suddenly, a sharp pain struck the top of my head. I squeezed my eyes shut. It felt as though someone was pressing both hands against my skull from either side. The Maulana's voice grew louder. The words were clear, powerful. And then, a biting cold flooded the room. The bulb flickered. I felt it distinctly, the sound of something breathing in fury. Right beside me. Inches away. A cry escaped me without warning. The Maulana suddenly raised his voice and placed something wrapped in cloth firmly on the floor. And then, for one single moment, everything went still. No sound. No wind. No sensation. Then, like something withdrawing, pulling back, my body began to return to itself. My breathing slowly steadied. The Maulana stopped reciting. The room was quiet. But this time, the silence wasn't heavy. He looked at me and said, "She will not remain here any longer. But remember this, never be careless in this house again. Prayer, the call to God, the Quran, none of that must stop." Very soft, settling music. I opened my eyes. The room was the same. But something had changed. The walls looked plain. The corners were empty. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept. Not deeply, but I slept. A few days later, we left that house. Cameron handled the remaining payment somehow, and we moved to a different neighborhood. I never asked anyone what had happened. I never tried to find out what it was, or where it had come from. Because some answers, once known, leave a person afraid for the rest of their life. Even today, years later, if I am alone in a room and the light doesn't quite reach the corners, I look toward the door. Not because I expect to see something, but because I remember. Some things are felt before they are ever seen.